Welcome to the Huntivore Podcast, episode 14, Chewing the Fat. Nick and Dustin closed down their 2018 deer season by talking muzzleloading and late-season archery sets. The guys also dive into some venison dishes and their takeaways from the recent interviews. They touch on Buzzardry 101, Salvage tags, and Dustin breaks down his ice fishing setup. A very relaxed episode today, so enjoy. Dustin.
Nick.
It's been a while.
It has.
We've had a busy November, and then that's translated also into a busy December.
Is there a month that's not busy? I'm just curious.
February is pretty slow.
Oh, okay.
March is pretty slow.
Okay.
But we're not even close to that yet.
No.
But anyway, December. Dustin, since we last left off, you did some work up north. You were planning on getting back up there again.
Yeah.
For late season. Is that still on the table? Is that in progress right now?
The up north plan got really derailed. So I have another piece of property that's much closer to home that it's not really ideal. It's 94 acres, I think, and there's 92 and a half acres of corn and an acre and a half woodlot in the back corner. That butts up to some township property and an athletic complex, and then that's pigeoned in by a development with 5-acre lots. So from a habitat standpoint, it's not been fantastic.
But that 1 acre,
yeah,
I bet is just full of deer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spot to get up. It is a place deer seem to wander through. I don't know if they use it for wayfinding or what, but it's a spot I hunt, I don't know, for the last 10 years on and off. So I was checking with my dad. My dad owns it with a partner of his, and it's just kind of, it's field. It's not a hunting property.
And it's all picked. There's nothing standing.
So at the time of my inquiry, everything was standing. So I asked my dad, I was just saying, hey, thinking about going muzzleloader hunting out on the Caledonia property, and I know where it is. It's in Caledonia. Look at a map. Doesn't really matter. You can really zoom in on it. So I asked him about it, and he's like, oh, I'll check with my partner, make sure it's all cool. And so he does, and he sends me a text back, and he's like, yeah, you're good to go. And additionally with the text, there's a picture of a really nice buck that some other young hunter took that had requested permission from my dad's partner back there that I wouldn't have guessed was back there. It's a really nice buck. I mean, it would rival anything. Actually, I would say it would best anything on my wall. So that re-motivated me to get back out there.
Maybe there's a companion to go with that.
Yeah, something else. So at the time, all the corn was up. I was getting this information, I think, on a Thursday. My plan was to go hunt on Saturday. And no, my plan was to hunt on Sunday. So I'm getting all geared up, and I'm re-looking at the map, even though it's not complicated, thinking about my plan. And then I find out that a third of the corn is down. So then I'm redoing my plan, but everything's going to be cool. I'm going to sit up probably on that edge where it had been taken down, and there's still standing corn. And then I do a drive-by on Saturday because we go shopping. My wife and I go shopping in town, and all the corn is down.
Nothing, just
I
desert.
could see the combines in the adjoining field. They had just gone through that day and taken it all down. And so that was a big gut punch. But
did you go through the corn, or through the stubble? Is it like a real clean operation where they're sucking everything?
No, I think they were trying to go as fast as they could because it's late in the season and there's a fair amount of corn up. it wasn't a perfect job. So there's still some, I mean, from what I could tell, it looked like there would be something that could actually draw in a deer, potentially.
Because even that cut stuff, it's almost, I find that even when it's first cut, there's plenty left on the ground there that deer find that easier than going for the stuff on the cob still.
Yeah, so the food is there. It's just they're now naked because there's 1 acre freaking lot, and now they're exposed to Timmy playing soccer and 2 fairly traveled roads, and then it's just the corn is cover at that point. So,
Gotcha.
So yeah, I went in there, and that took my interest. I put the up north on hold, sat there a couple of times. I spooked 2 deer out of the 1 acre lot in my afternoon hunt. I hunted there that morning, went back in, spooked 2 deer out. I am pretty sure those deer were watching me.
The entire time?
Yeah, the entire time. They watched me come in because they can see everything. They're like, oh, I guess we're not going to be able to sit in our little spot. And then they saw me walk out, and they're like, oh, the dum-dum's gone. And then they were like, oh, the dum-dum's coming back. And then they left. So, sad story. I got distracted on hopes and dreams of who knows what. I probably should have. I have no deer now, so now I'm super desperate. Should have done the up north thing. Now really, like, kicking myself. So, yeah.
I think
it's my up north story. It didn't happen, and it should have.
Gotcha. Well, you got to think back to October. You got a nice 8 in October.
I did.
I would say don't quit.
Yeah.
There's still another one that could go next to him.
Yeah, no. I'm not quitting. So my plan is kind of revolving around, we're doing some habitat work. I guess it'll be the last weekend of December, so right around air time for this. We're going to do some habitat work, and I'm going to work in a deer drive. So maybe that'll be my last hurrah.
If you need a guy in orange, just let me know.
Yeah.
I can walk with him.
I got nephews and my brother and my dad, and I think I'm just going to make them all turn into beagles and push deer. Uncle needs a deer real bad.
Real bad. He needs
walk
some
through
meat.
that. Yeah.
Gotcha. I did 2 muzzleloader sits. I was opening day of muzzleloader, and then the following Saturday as well. Just 2 sits in the muzzleloader. Both saw a deer. One was a real cold morning. The other one was semi-average evening as far as temps go. Evening, it was really late that the deer came, and then it was actually about mid-morning that I didn't see deer on. Yeah, that would have been the opener morning that I saw deer. So it was overall great to get the muzzleloader out there. I'm actually borrowing somebody else's muzzleloader.
That's what that was.
Yeah, real old school. Yeah, well, it's not necessarily a flintlock, just hammer action.
Oh yeah,
exposed on the side. But yeah, it's a real old gun. That barrel is super heavy. There is no kick and no lift on that thing because I'm holding cast iron out in front of me. It feels like real solid weapon. It's like, yeah, this is awesome. Just was not given an opportunity. Well, in the morning I wasn't given an opportunity, and then the evening I did, but I chose not to. I've got my freezers overflowing, and we can talk about that here in just a moment. But no, I on that morning set, with 3 kiddos at home. The wife doesn't like to be left home the whole weekend with kiddos, so I had to make a move, and I texted her from the stand and said that this was my last sit of the season.
The final sit.
The final sit was that morning, which was good. I saw a deer, and it was favorable, and I got to watch them interact, and it was a good closing day. At the same time, it's not to say that I'm not going to rule out a Brett Favre move. I'm still in my prime. I can come back.
Just one more sit.
Just one more sit. Come on, just one more. Just go to the Jets and then the Vikings. But no, I'll be down to the muzzleloader. The compound is in the shop.
Oh.
When I took it out in this late archery this week where there wasn't, or that past week where there wasn't any muzzleloader, that week between shotgun craziness and then muzzleloader, I took the bow out and I noticed some real big fraying going on by my cam, and I was kind of glad that I didn't have a deer walk by. I don't think it would have snapped on me, but it was definitely fraying enough that it's like, ooh, this string is done.
Yeah.
This is old. It's 2 years.
Oh yeah, time to go.
She's needs in for repair. So that's actually in the shop. I took that in yesterday. So I should hear word probably end of the week on when we can get it back. They got to order my string.
Yeah.
I haven't tried. It's a company that the shop uses. I'm interested to try them out.
Oh, aftermarket. And hot strings.
I
hopped up.
I don't. Well, maybe they're hopped up.
I don't know.
I went.
That shows what
my current string had black and blue, and I didn't like it.
It's just got red in it,
reminiscent of a bruise.
Oh yeah.
And I switched out the blue in this one to be a dark green, something
that's not hopped up. If
No,
it's red, then it's hopped up.
See, we ain't hopping anything up. I'm trying to hide. I'm not trying to be exposed. So anyway, we'll get word how that string's working, and then we'll begin the tuning process again. They've got all my measurements, but at the same time, when you get that bow back, you just gotta make sure everything still flies the way that it should. So I'm done calling it on the venison pursuit for 2018. It could happen again. But I really hit it hard on the culinary side of venison.
That you did.
I had a shank recipe I did it with ossobuco style.
Ossobuco. Look at you.
Ossobuco, throwing the terms out. After talking with Scott Reed on that interview, the man is just full of knowledge, and I gleaned more of that after the interview as well. And so this is the first time I've done a shank chopped up into sections like that, and it's all that it's cracked up to be, especially if this is the way you want to do it.
So is that just you take the same bone saw that we use in when we're breaking the deer apart and chop that shank into pieces, or how you bust that down?
Yeah, that same bone saw. Scott specifically was saying that you use your blade, your knife, on the meat only, and then you only use the saw on bone.
Yeah.
That's going to give you a better cut. It's going to be more true. You're going to get less tearage, and it will keep the bone or the bone shavings. You're not going to have as much of a mess when you're all said and done. It's easier cleanup because then you've just cut the bone and you're not getting the bone fragments into the tears now.
Yeah, makes sense.
But anyway, I did mine like 2.5 inches wide. Every 2.5 inches, I cut it. I tried to cheat it. I thought I was smarter than the average man, and I pulled it out of the freezer and tried to cut it frozen. Not prescribed or not recommended. That was way difficult because I couldn't cut anything with a knife, and it reacted the same frozen with the saw.
It's like a brick.
Yeah. So when you thaw it out, then you can use your knife on the meat, and then you can use your saw on the bone.
They take a long time to thaw out too.
They do.
I've noticed.
Something about that thick bone.
That bone just keeps it,
keeps it ice cold.
Yeah.
Stick it in some lukewarm water. That speeds it up in your sink. I like that method.
I feel like that's cheating. I don't know why. I feel bad about it. Why do I feel bad?
I don't know why you feel bad about it.
I feel like I'm going to ruin the integrity of the meat by
If you're using like scalding water and trying to speed it up, I think
that's what I do.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't suggest doing that. At the same time, the shank's going to be put under a low, slow cook anyway, so you're almost...
Could be shoe leather, so it doesn't...
Yeah.
You're going to fix it.
But making those cuts, I then, through a little bit of research, found instead of the traditional normal ossobuco that I've seen both on Meat Eater and all these shows that are out there coming out now, where it's your mirepoix, which is carrots, celery, onion. You throw that in, you cook it down. There's stock. Then there's a load of tomatoes that go in. I found
tomatoes,
like a canned tomato goes in, and it creates this stew.
Okay.
So it's like you're getting the broth, you're getting the vegetables, and you're getting the hunk of meat.
Yep.
I found this black pepper recipe where I do take a little bit of tomato paste with garlic and a load of black pepper. You're supposed to use like a cracked black pepper and then regular black pepper on top of it. And basically you smear that all over these pieces of meat and then set them in your Dutch oven or your crock pot or whatever you're using, and then douse on the wine. And you basically fill that up 2/3 of the way and let it go.
Gotcha. Just
a different recipe, different take on. It's originally from Tuscany, and this was pre-Columbus.
Oh.
I'm getting this off the recipe. It even had like fun facts of history.
Written down with a feathered pen kind of crap.
Yeah. So this stuff was pre-Columbus because he brought back tomatoes, and there wasn't tomatoes in Italy at the time of this recipe being made. Mind blown.
That's insane.
So back to my recipe.
I'm
okay. Back to it.
Yeah, like Olive Garden. Every image of the Italian restaurant and the red sauce and the tomatoes. That's like new school Italy.
It's after Columbus.
Yeah, that's like McDonald's Italy.
It's mid school. It's not old school and it's not new school. It's mid school. So anyway, just like any other shank recipe, you just let it go. And I think mine was 2 hours. Mm-hmm. People talk about polenta being what you serve this on. And we live here in Michigan, so potatoes is the way I went. Mashed potatoes, and then stuck that on top. A little bit of roasted Brussels sprouts. It was a home run.
It looked nice. If you haven't seen it, go to Instagram. Check it out.
It's on Instagram.
It's beautiful.
I tell you, it was super easy. As long as I just kind of kept my steps in front of me. There wasn't like this hard thing that I had to follow, and we're slow cooking. So it's like, oh, shoot. I didn't pull it out right at time. It's like, well, your time has been 3 hours. So it's another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But that came across. My father-in-law even came over that night. He was over to see the kids and to hang out, and happened to be there right around at dinner time. And so I slid a plate in front of him. And he's a man he's as Dutch Wonder Bread as it comes. He doesn't handle anything outside of what he knows, steak and potatoes.
Yeah.
And that's all he is. And so I describe what I'm serving him up, and he just had that look of, I don't know.
They don't have this on the Russ's menu.
No, exactly. You could serve this with onion rings. However, it wasn't. But anyway, it even lit him up. He enjoyed it. Wow. He told me how good it was. So it was like, yes! That was a definite win.
Nice.
Now, you were doing shanks earlier as well.
Yes, the virgin shank.
The virgin shank experience.
I finally got to it.
Well, take me from the beginning.
Yeah, so these are 2017 shanks. So it's the last of the deer that I got last year. And I was just going to do basic. So plan was do a nice little rub on the outside, and then crock pot in some beef stock. So super simple. So I put them in the fridge, and back to the whole, man, they take a long time to thaw out thing. I had to shift the whole recipe by a day. I pulled them out so the game plan, I leave for work in the morning at like 6:15 or whatever it is. So my plan was I was going to get up before work and do sear in the pan, and then throw them in the slow cooker, and then when I get home around 5 o'clock, good to go. So yeah, frozen is all get out, so I had to adjust that. So next day, so actually the night before, to prep it up, I grabbed my spices, and I just mad scientisted a little bit. I know garlic powder was involved, and who knows what else. I took a picture of it so I could remember. If it was super awesome, then I could recreate it. But I just went with...
That's the trouble with mad scientisting. You know?
I at least took a picture of it. So I had a general idea. The amounts of each thing, yeah, that was a guess. So I did that the night before, covered it, threw it in the fridge, and then woke up, and I got the pans going. And so I put just some garlic, minced onion, and minced celery, I think that's all it was, in the pan. And I was going to multitask, and I had too many shanks for one pan. So I had two pans going, jumped in the shower, just going to do a quick 10-minute shower, come back out. And one of the pans, I just had this blackened, gooey, disgusting, terrible mess.
So let me get this right. Back up.
Yeah.
You left a pan on the stove.
Yeah.
And then you went and took a shower.
Yeah. I was gambling a little bit.
This is how fires start in homes.
Yeah.
Dustin.
It was a quick shower. 10 minutes is probably an exaggeration. I don't have any hair. It's a quick operation. It's a speedy process. And it's
not speedy enough to save your shank.
Yeah. No, the shanks were still in the fridge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this was just a couple of pans, not a ton of heat, but enough. So one of the pans, the lighter one, it's way too light of a pan. It's a piece of garbage. So anyways, that one went in the trash. And then the other larger, thicker pan was good to go. So we cooked that down, and then we seared the shanks, and then put that in the crock pot with some garlic and some celery and some onion, just kind of diced up. And then I put in 2 cups of beef stock, because I didn't want to, it was going to be in there a long time, and I didn't want to turn to stew.
Right.
So I didn't put in a ton. So I went with that, and then I had my wife put in some carrots and some petaled out onions. I think that's all we had there in like the final hour. So basic, but long, slow cook on it. And I was getting pictures throughout the day of
of your progress,
of the progress of it falling off the bone, like literally, like shrinking up and then falling off the bone.
Just food porn images.
Yeah,
that are
pretty
coming
much.
Across.
Yeah, so I just wanted. I got out of work right on time. There was no way.
There's like, no delay.
Shut down. See you later. Yeah. Bye. Gotta go. Yeah. So. That was it in a nutshell, and it was incredibly tender. I can increase on the flavor side. I learned that. So it was probably, I don't know, part of it was probably expectation, part of it was probably just, it being a beef stock, but that beef stock really did take over. I mean, if you closed your eyes, you'd just say this is beef roast. Like, this is mom's beef roast, which isn't a bad thing.
Right.
I mean, if you wanted to give somebody venison that was a good, like, I don't really like gamey flavor. I mean, that's a crappy term, but didn't have any of that flavor that you may equate to what is venison.
Yeah, the venison-esque was taken out.
It was gone. It was completely gone.
Where was this deer taken?
This was, it was Reed City deer.
Reed City deer?
Yeah, so it's eating twigs and it's not corn-fed.
Gotcha. I was going to say, it wasn't like a Southern Michigan deer.
No.
Buck.
I mean, it was small, so... but yeah, I mean, it was definitely good. I'm just going to amp up, I think, some of the mix-ins. Maybe go a little heavier on what I do in the sear the next time. And probably not, although the tenderness was fine, I think it just be cooking that long just really, really took on that beef stock like no other.
Yeah. More of a sponge aspect instead of...
Yeah.
It absorbed that flavor.
Yeah, it really pulled in that beef flavor. Which, if you were going for that,
great.
Which I didn't really. Clearly, I didn't have. I was aiming in the direction of I want shank. I half read a couple of recipes, and then 4 days later, it kind of was like, I think I was reading something like this.
Well, sounds good. Sounds, I'd say, successful.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first shank. It was very easy.
Yeah.
And after going through the hell of grinding what is shank meat, that's never ever happening again. It's just stupid.
I've never ground it. Well, there's been one deer that I've ground shank meat.
It's asinine.
Every other one of them, I just saved the shank.
Yeah.
It's just tacos waiting to happen. It's Ma's beef roasts.
Yeah.
Waiting to happen.
Yeah, I'll take that any day over cleaning out the stupid tiny grind in the wheel or the cutting blade. Anyways, half of it ends up in the trash because you're just trying to cut all the tendons out.
Well, that's awesome, Dustin. I'm glad that you've now...
Yeah, I've seen the light.
You've got your shanks ready to go.
I've seen the light, yeah.
It was fun walking you through that because you forwarded a few of those pictures over. That was a good deal.
I need a little help, need a little coaching.
Well, that's what we all need. That's how we get better. I also revisited smoking venison. We had a family Christmas here at our house, and I was serving up, and my wife was asking, "So, are we getting a prime rib, or are we gonna get? Should we go get some turkey, or what do you want to do for that?" And I'm like, I got a load of venison right now, and it would be awesome to do some smoked venison. My charcoal grill / smoker has just been hanging out in my garage, and I just look at it every time I park in there, and so I was like, well, you gotta get this thing out. And it happened to be like a 35, 37 degree day. It was super foggy that Sunday, and it was just ripe for smoking. Last time I smoked, actually it was several episodes, we talked to Joel from Reload Rub and Seasonings. I had done some previously with his stuff and loved it, but I wasn't happy with as much smoke that I got on that venison.
You didn't get as much as you wanted?
Yeah. You could smell it, but you couldn't really taste the smoke as much as you would have liked. It was just real light. And that was due to me really cutting back. I didn't want to overdo anything on this. And after playing it safe, I was like, all right, I really want to add some smoke flavor to this. So, and the other thing too is it got done quicker than what I wanted it to. I had too much coal, too much heat going on in that smoker. I was running at like 300, 320. So it was done. It was supposed to be like 3 hours, but it ended up being like an hour and a half till I got my 120 on the inside, 120, 125. I pulled that off, and it was ready to go. It was good, but it didn't have a chance to absorb that smoke. fast forward to now, I lowered the amount of charcoal and I upped the amount of chips that I was putting on my smoker. My temp was right around 220. I kept it real low, and I never went past that 220. I had I was checking with my thermometer, even in the ambient temperature of the inside of that grill, and it didn't get above 220. And it did take about 3 hours to get the 7 pounds that I had put in. I had 2 top rounds and 2 bottom rounds, and it came out to be right around 7 pounds.
Nice.
And keeping it slow, I was able to add a lot more smoke. So then during that 3 hours, probably about 2.5, I was adding apple, and I had actually been cutting some oak up for our fireplace so it could be all warm and snug with the fireplace. So I took some of those oak shavings and decided to throw those into the mix as well. Not a ton. I know that's a real pungent wood with the oak, but anyway, I was like, I'll just add a little bit. I can't tell if it's apple, because that's what I was throwing, apple or oak, but I can definitely taste a lot more smoke on this round. And you don't get that ring necessarily, that smoke ring that the competition guys are looking for. But, man, slicing this thing up, you smelled the smoke when you bite into it. You get the venison, you get the rub. I used the sweet and smoky from Reload, and yeah, this was a superior product to what I had done before, and it was a hit all the way around. In fact, I had 1 top round left, untouched, and then at the end of the party, as I'm cleaning up, there's half of it gone. So my brother-in-law
came back in.
Yeah, my brother-in-law took a good portion of it home with him, so I hope he enjoys that.
Thief.
Yeah, exactly. Chokes on the end of it, I hope.
Hear that? Probably don't. You're not listening.
But anyway, did you notice a little more smoke flavor on the morsels that I've been serving you today?
I noticed a little bit different flavor. Did you go a little bit less on the rub?
I did go less on the rub.
Yeah. I noticed more of the meat flavor. Because I know, and I liked it both ways. I remember getting punched in the face a little more with the last one.
Well, they had
that pack and heat.
Pack and heat.
Yeah.
That's a hot one.
Yeah. So that was my prior experience. Was I went a couple of rounds with pack and heat. So yeah, no, it's good stuff.
Yeah. No, I went a little lighter, and I let the venison do more of the talking.
Yeah.
And it is. It doesn't taste like beef.
No.
It is definitely venison.
Yeah. But it's a more mild version of maybe what I would say is your standard steak venison flavor.
Yeah.
I think some of that smoke and some of that other, I don't know. I guess a little bit of the rub just kind of milds it up a little bit.
As much as I want to say, like, Reload makes a great product, and putting the apple and the oak, that apparently that's a good mix.
Yeah.
But what I learned from my recent talk with Hank is that as much as the ingredient, you want that to be the star, it's on your technique.
Yeah.
It's how I smoked it. It's how long I smoked it. It's the execution of making sure that temp is right at that spot you want it to be. That's going to trump whatever cool seasoning you're going to put on or secret sauce. It will play a role in that, but your technique is what is going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I want to say this round I had a little bit more confidence to really embellish on the smoke. I actually cured these for overnight in a salt sugar. I added salt and sugar to the outside of them, sealed them in a vac bag, and let that pull the moisture out. So when I got them out, I rinsed all that stuff off, patted them dry, and I actually had a tackiness on that meat so that when it hit the smoker, that thing's sucking in that smoke already. So I just think my technique, my execution was better. And that's not, I mean, you can taste the sweet and smoky on the outside.
Yeah.
And you can taste the smoke from the apple and the oak. So it's all, I think all around it plays off both each other, but hitting that technique was I think the big key that I took, at least initially from his talk, technique versus ingredient, and then just hammered home.
Well done.
Can I get a bushel latte? Thank you, sir. So we colored, venison stock.
Venison stock.
We just mentioned, the ingredient necessarily isn't going to break anything. So your beef stock wouldn't have been that far off. But do you think cooking your shank in venison stock would have changed your flavor profile?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's rampant speculation. But just the beefiness of what I experienced, I got to imagine that wasn't present, that it would have changed the profile.
Gotcha. Well, with old Spike, I was able to take the bones and I created venison bone broth.
You did it.
I did it. It worked out really well.
Bring me through that process.
It's going to sound...
Bones in the water.
Yeah.
Eat.
People want to make it sound like this huge, secret. It's stupid simple. Now, I did add a little more to it, just because that's what I do.
Yeah.
I got to
tinker.
I got to tinker. I got to mess with it. I can't just have stock. I got to have amped up stock. But yeah, cleaned out my bone, or took my bones that we'd cleaned off, and I purposely, as I was cleaning Spike, didn't do a good job of getting all the meat off.
Left some hangers
right around the knuckle ends.
Oh yeah.
Rather than being tight and then taking that, then ultimately have that little morsel go right into grind.
Beat the edge of your knife.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
Well, I just keep that there and then add that to the goodness. In fact, I buzzard your deer's bones as well.
You got some of my bones?
I got from your buck.
I didn't even realize.
We have Reed City buck and we have Spike, Southern Michigan buck, going in the same pot.
Look at that.
So I took those bones.
That's CWD just waiting to happen.
No, it was clear. You got the clear signal.
Yeah, you don't know.
I made this after the clear. Special note. Don't make stock until you got your CWD clear notice. So took bones and basically cut them. Took the nut or the saw, cut them in half and quarter, basically opening up the inside because you do want the marrow. You do want that fat on the inside to leach out, with addition to the outside that has the meat that's there. And you want to start to get everything melting or beginning to break down a little bit. So took all those bones, hit them with a little bit of oil, hit them with some salt, and a whole sheet went into the oven at around 400, I think it was 400 or 425. Anyway, you're just browning the heck out of everything.
So you're baking the bones.
You're baking the bones.
Is this a special or is this a standard?
This is pretty much standard.
Yeah,
I would say. At least I've had two different chefs, one being Hank, the other being another guy on YouTube. But at the same time, they're basically just saying you're caramelizing, and by caramelizing you get flavor. So
it's endorsed by Hank.
Endorsed by Hank.
Okay, fine. I'm good with it.
Goes in the oven, 25, 30 minutes.
Okay.
So even to a point where you're like, ooh, that's done. And it's like, it doesn't matter. You're going to boil this forever.
Hot bones.
So yeah, pulled them out, and they immediately went into a large stock pot. And I have that on my burner, and then I'm dumping water to fill this thing up, and I'm covering all the bones. This left me enough time that I had already roughly chopped carrots, celery, onion, and I think I had some whole garlic cloves that I ended up just smashing.
Yeah.
Your basic mirepoix, which is French for those 3 vegetables. You get a lot of flavor out of those vegetables. Like a basic vegetable stock is just those 3 things that are simmered down in water. So you do get ample amount of flavor, and that just adds to what you're making. So that's why I took the extra step rather than just going straight with the bones, adding the vegetables in there as well. And did the same thing. Hit them with a bunch of oil, hit them with some salt, into the oven, just caramelizing everything. So when they did come out, there's brown edges all on the onions. The carrots are curling. At the same time, it doesn't matter. You leave the skins on the onions.
Oh, yeah.
You leave the skin on the carrot. You're just rough. I usually use the butt end of the celery. That went in as well because you end up straining all that out.
Gotcha.
So all of it goes into this stock pot. I put the lid on it, and I just walk away. I think it was 3 or 4 hours before I actually came back. I think I was working off of actually Hank's recipe he's got. It was either on his website or in the Buck Moose book. But there is a point where then your stock can go bitter.
Ah, well, that sucks.
If you boil your bones too long, because now you're leaching that out of the bones themselves. As I'm like at 4 hours, I was like, oh,
time to go.
Why don't I go taste this real quick? Perfectly fine. Didn't overdo it, so nice. we were all safe. I'm sure that's if I were to like let it go overnight or something. But anyway, I put a good 4 hours just simmer on all this stuff. The meat is just shredding off. I mean, as I'm pulling the bone out, like those sections that I left on are just falling in.
Nice.
The vegetables were pretty much just disintegrated at this point. And from that, you end up with like this slurry that you're like, how do I turn this into something usable? Because right now this looks like a mess. So I ran it through a fine screened colander, and it still left a bunch of floaties, lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Back to the book. Hank's got another French word in there. Something for like, basically cheesecloth, like super fine cheesecloth.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, we have what's called the nutbag.
Ah, the nutbag makes another appearance.
The nutbag. It is a super fine sack that at one point my wife tried to make almond milk. And through this series of like boiling almonds, you pour them in this bag and like squeeze them out. You squeeze your nuts in this sack.
So
it's bad.
The nut bag is a super fine sack.
Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to clarify. That's what it is.
Exactly. It's actually used you can squeeze nuts.
Okay.
You can squeeze the liquid out of nuts. There's a better way to do that, but we won't get into it.
Okay.
So I used that product and ran my stock through it. I actually took that and basically tightened it around the bottom of the colander and ran it all through
the nut sack.
The colander. So all the stock ran through the nut sack.
Gotcha. Okay. And it's a double stage.
It double staged. And pulled out a lot of gunk, for lack of a better term. We're talking like, basically brown bits that were either left on the bottom, just scraped off, the little bit of the fat that was in there, and just the bits that you don't want necessarily in your soup.
Yeah.
That was able to take it out. I don't have a link for the nut bag. I would not just put in nut bag. Where do you buy a nut bag?
Just go with a cheesecloth, probably.
Cheesecloth,
if you're shopping.
Yeah, cloth used to make almond milk. That would be a good way to go. However you find it, it is a very useful tool in the kitchen. Because now, sitting in my next stage pot was pretty much clarified liquid, but it just had a ton of flavor to it, and it was that venison stock. And starting out, I was at a couple gallons, and I knew that I need to reduce this down because it is pretty watery. So I put it again back on the stove, and at this point, you're not boiling the bones anymore. You're basically cooking out the water.
Gotcha.
And let that go on a light boil. I didn't want to go a hard boil because I didn't want to walk away and then come back to a mess.
Yeah.
Unlike you that takes a shower while he's
cooking
something.
Well, yeah.
Anyway.
I didn't have as much invested into
That's very true.
into this operation.
So I boiled that for like another hour as I'm doing stuff around the house, just checking in on it. And man, this like the longer I left it, the more rich it got. And I was even able to spoon some of the liquid fat that's on the top. You just spoon that out of the way. And, I mean, this stuff, you could straight up put some vegetables in it and have a dynamite vegetable soup. Nice. Just like that, just with the stock. I did add some salt to it just for a little bit more, just to bring that flavor out a little bit. But I also didn't want to add too much. If I'm going to make a soup, I'll add the salt then. But this way I have a pretty much straight stock for cooking a shank, for making a roast, for making a soup. It's all set, ready to go. And I pre-packaged it into these 3-cup bags because when I'm looking at a recipe, a lot of times 3 cups is what they give or take on how much you need.
Gotcha.
Or if you are making a big pot of stuff, you just open up 3 bags, dump them all in. It's reduced enough that I could definitely add some water to it and still keep the flavor. There's a point where you can boil that stuff down so far, and then you put it in like an ice cube tray, and you actually basically create Jell-O.
Oh, yeah.
With all the gelatin and how like condensed it is. I didn't want to go that far.
Cubes.
Yeah, I didn't want to go with a bouillon cube. I didn't want to get down to a bouillon cube.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wanted to have something that really had a rich flavor so that when I'm doing a shank, it's now a venison shank going in with venison stock. I'm not cheating myself at all on it.
And so you put these in what kind of bags?
I did them in vac bags.
Vac bags.
If you've got your normal vacuum sealer at home, what I would do is like put a couple boards underneath it, either like 2x4s to lift it up. That way, when you put your liquid in and then lay the edge down, the liquid actually sits below the unit, creating a cup situation so it's not going to spill all out.
Did you seal the bags prematurely, or did you get all air? Because there was a long debate over multiple Meat Eater episodes over this, so just curious how it went.
I'm going to say that I cheated, and I used the chamber sealer at the farm, which in that case works the same as a regular vacuum seal, that I just hard vac these things. There wasn't a point where I stopped the unit.
It's freezer expansion, I think, was the debate. I was having a hard time keeping up with the conversation, but sounds like you just
there was a little, because of
the angle.
I had to pull out a couple of basically the same thing where I had the liquid below the edge of the sealer, there is a bit of space. When you do that, it automatically creates a space.
Yeah.
So there's give and play within now it's vacked up. There's give and play to the bag. So there's room for expansion. I'm not creating a water balloon that basically doesn't have flexibility. We're not at that point. There's movement that can happen in that bag.
So there's your pro tip.
Yeah. Lift your at-home vacuum unit.
Make a little saddle.
Yeah. Pick it up so that the bag sits below the actual sealer, and then seal it that way. And that way it keeps all the liquid in, keeps you from dumping it all over your kitchen, and at the same time gives you room for expansion.
There you go. Stock talk.
Stock talk. That was a long talk. And just stock. Now, we touched a little bit on Scott and Hank. And I've listened to that particular episode a couple times. What was your takeaways, Dustin? What did you think about those interviews?
I think we stepped up our game. Mostly the guy that did the interviewing on those. It was nice. It's nice listening to real experts in their, I guess, fields of butchery and wild game cooking. Just so much can be gleaned out of those guys. They put forth so much, but as far as YouTube videos and books and stuff, but just listening to them just for picking their brain for the things that we're looking at and concerned with from the Midwest sportsman for an hour or so. Just so much that they could bring to the table for us. Good times.
It really was. With Scott, one of the big takeaways I had from him too was the only way you can screw this up is by not doing it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you mess up a cut, you can either make it into a steak or a giblet and cook it that way.
Yeah.
Or it goes into grind that you're already going to make something great out of. There's going to be no loss at this point. It's just whether you have it the way that you were intending it to be cut, or it's just going to end up being something still usable.
There's basically no downside. Just do it.
Yeah.
Try it.
Give it a shot. And if you screw up, there's always the next year that you get that you can try it out.
Hopefully.
I kind of had the liberty of really putting that to practice. I'm up to 7 deer that I've processed.
That's a lot of deer.
I feel really proud about that aspect, that between just in our own hunting circle that many people have gotten a deer, and I've been able to then get my knives on it and practice, and at the same time give quality cuts to people that really can try something new with it.
Changing the world.
Changing the world one deer at a time.
One deer at a time. No more giblets.
There's a place for giblets. There is a place for giblets, just not whole shoulders or whole legs turned into...
Not pulling it out of the middle of the bottom round is probably not where you want to pull your giblet from.
Right.
While it's still on the deer.
So it was enjoyable to talk to Scott on that, and with Hank too. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, like the first part of that interview, I was jumbling over my words.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little noticeable. You understandably.
I was nervous.
This is a big man. I mean, this.
I've met him on 2 other occasions, but this was my first time to sit down.
Yeah, one on one,
and have his full attention.
Yeah.
The man is just an encyclopedia of knowledge.
That is true. He did not have any difficulty going on any of the questions. He knows his stuff.
He definitely does. But it's great because at that point, I'm absorbing every word from him at that moment. And there's a couple things that stuck with me on that interview, and that's not just the technique versus ingredient, which I'll get back to in a minute, but when you're serving venison or you're serving wild game, small game, whatever, it being something new to someone who's never had it, to cook it in a way that that resembles that animal. Like, let's not doctor it up so much that you're hardly getting any taste out of it.
Yeah.
I think our example was like buffalo wild turkey mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Like, that is like so much buffalo mac and cheese in that the turkey barely registers. That if you're gonna cook small game, then give them, fried squirrel, and say, there you go. That is squirrel in a nutshell. And they hopefully will understand. And this might have to come on your front end too, of explaining. I've put a lot of hours into getting this animal. I've put in a lot of time into field care of this animal now becoming meat, and I've put a lot of care into cooking this, that this is a trust fall, that I'm really asking you to trust me that this tastes good. And it's a big step for some people, and that how in this world there's families completely separated, that wives or husbands or kids don't taste the hunter's quarry or catch because of either preconceived notions or whatever. And it was just kind of like, I couldn't imagine that happening.
I think one of the things I took away from the interview, and so obviously with Hank, he's a chef, very accomplished, has been doing this, so he knows his stuff's going to be good. So he can go off in any direction he wants and be able to bring a kick-ass dish and not have to throw it in mac and cheese or whatever, and people are going to like it. He knows it because he's got that down. So get your stuff together if you're going to make those things for somebody else. You don't have to mask it, but if you're trying to bridge some gaps, get it figured out first. Cause
that's a very good point.
He was going through just fried squirrel, and he's talking about you braise it or par boil or whatever, and then you throw it in and you fry it. And I'm going back to my first squirrel that I ever did, and I just battered it and fried it, and that SOB was so freaking tough. If I served that to anybody, they would never eat a squirrel ever again. And it was me and the dog got his fair share
of squirrel
because it was so tough. And he said that, and I was like, man, that would work way better.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
So try it a couple times.
Yeah.
Get your shit together.
Yeah, and then serve them something that's cool, and not just bury it in the mac and cheese.
I like that. But with the technique as well, I liked how he did touch on how technique trumps what you're putting into it. That it is the more that you do something, the more that you have a dish that kind of becomes your go-to or your home run. And I did allude to him on that one, that like the reverse sear has been one of my home runs, my saving grace in a lot of that. You get a small piece of meat, you get towards the neck side of that loin of your back strap, and it's hard to throw that onto a charcoal grill and have that come out the right consistency. It's going to be well done at that tip.
I don't care who you are, it's going to be well done.
It's going to be well done. And being able to put that in the oven, get it to your medium rare, and then hit it hard either back on the grill or in the pan is a home run idea.
Which I've never done, but I'm going to be doing.
I tell you, it is one of the best things you could do, especially on a smaller piece of prized meat.
I'm thinking of straps,
tenderloin. These are all really good candidates for the reverse sear. You can take thick pieces of steak and throw it on the grill and they'll be fine, but anything smaller you're going to want to use on the reverse sear. Reason I'm kind of hitting hard on this is our friends over at the Deer Hunter podcast.
Yeah. Yes.
They had their 100th episode this past week. Congratulations, gentlemen.
There you go.
An awesome achievement. But they were ragging on the reverse sear.
That's bullcrap.
Bullshit, guys.
Even though I've never even done it. I'm pro reverse sear after listening to Hank.
Gotcha. No missionary sear here. Nothing straight on the grill when it gets that prize of a tenderloin or of a narrow end of a backstrap. Do your homework, fellas.
Yeah.
Try it.
Kevin.
I'm trying to think of a segue.
Yeah.
And I can't make it work.
So, Nick. You are the King Buzzard.
I am the King Buzzard. What are you referring to, Dustin?
I'm referring to the fact that you are in prime competition with every other scavenger out there, including the Buzzards, other Michiganders, and coyotes, eagles, and anything else that happens to see a deer smoked on the side of the road and wants after some of that prime vehicular manslaughtered venison.
I tell you, it's almost a gift and a sickness
and
all in once, and a curse. I do. I enjoy shoulder venison.
Yeah.
Not the shoulder of a deer, but actually shoulder of the road venison.
Yeah.
It's in a sense free deer that you can take.
It is. You just gotta whip out the phone, go on the website, get yourself a Salvage tag, which is essentially a confirmation number, and away you go.
Having you show me that it's on a mobile app,
the light,
it changed the game.
There's some immediacy there.
There is. And not being my first year, but now being that I have the mobile app at my disposal, there has to be an art and a science to your Buzzardry.
Tell me more.
That you're not just going to pick up any dead thing anything dead alongside the road. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You have no information on that animal. You're putting together the pieces at first contact.
It's a hell of a gamble.
It's a hell of a gamble. So you do need to put in some safety marks around that.
Yeah.
If the animal is still alive, bingo. That's
the
best way you can have
That's what I'm looking for.
In fact, one of my greatest stories happens around when I'm called by another friend and said, "Hey, I just watched somebody hit a deer, and I believe it's still alive." So, jackpot.
Bingo.
Let's go. So I drive there, and the officer is already on the scene and speaking with the person.
That's no doubt probably upset due to
Probably upset. I pull up and in line with the deer as to mark, "Hey, it's over here." And it's now evening, so I put my headlamp on and I'm walking from my vehicle to the cop and the person's car. And I get about halfway and I kind of have to stop myself for a second. I take a deep breath. I am crossing over into like the protagonist now in this story. That there is going to be a sudden change of events that is going to happen. Because I'm sure this gentleman is already upset that his car has just got smacked up. He's got to take it to the shop.
Yeah.
And then as he's talking with an officer,
just wants to get through this.
Just wants to be on his way. Out of the darkness comes this hillbilly Are you okay? Oh, I'm so glad. Are you going to take that deer?
I didn't really care if you were okay, but I had to segue about steers.
I had to first get through the abnormalities of social humans, but now I want after your deer. So that was a great life experience to have a gentleman look at you the way that man looked at me, and at the same time be like, "Yeah, have it, sweet." I had to have the cop put it down because I didn't have my firearm or my bow with me at that moment. I wanted to be first on the scene.
I think he has to do it.
He has to do it anyway?
I think so. Gotcha. I don't really know.
Anyway.
I was having this discussion.
The shot happened. The deer became dead.
Yeah.
And then I was able to acquire it and get it back so I could cut it up. Fresh right there. But having a good sense on timing of the animal when it passes is also a good idea. So if you find one that is dead, having some sort of marker to be able to say, I know when this animal went down.
Yeah.
I have a great setup for my way to work.
Okay.
And it's pretty much a back road that runs alongside of basically a 2-lane highway. Mm-hmm. M37 goes north and south, and then there's a small road that goes alongside it on the opposite side of the river. Well, along that road, it's wooded, there's ag fields, and in fact, 2 rivers come together at one point where there's marsh and there's grassland. This is the prime set for deer, car occasions.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, I see deer every day going to work or either coming home from work.
Yeah.
If it's not one way, it's the other. And from that, more often than not, there is a new addition to the shoulder. Instead of being distracted by texting on my phone, I'm more or less distracted with my eyes scanning the ditches as I'm driving along. So my hands are at 10 to 2, but my eyes also scan from 10 to 2. And you do have your few that pop up that you're like, I don't know if that... Like, you come in on a Monday, you're like, I don't know if that was a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. He or she is going to be left right there.
Yeah.
And you put a mental note on that carcass, because you're going to come back again. Oh, and get excited. Nope, remember? We don't know what that one is. But anyway, in my trip, I know the last time that I was through there, and so I can gauge whether that's a during the day hit or a middle of the night hit or even a morning hit. And so from that, actually having that same path back and forth, I've been able to pick up two salvage tags. One a buck and one a doe.
Ooh.
A little button. I called him Sal for salvage. And then the doe I called Sally for Salvage.
Nice.
But Sal had questions behind him. He would already begin to bloat. So I went gutless method.
Okay.
If I'm not sure, but yet the back straps are still good on him.
Yep.
The hind quarter and the front shoulders are still good, and I was able to glean that meat off, and then the rest I didn't even bother with.
Yeah.
You know, you got to cut your losses. This is
it's free.
It's free. It's off the side of the road.
Yeah. You just did the county a favor.
I did.
Save some meat.
With the doe, I came up onto that, and I had some clues that when I got there, I saw pieces of plastic and aluminum and damage from the car.
Yeah,
still out and about.
That's a great sign.
I knew this was
jackpot.
Very recent. When I approached her, I even had eye shine from my lights. It wasn't dark, but it was just beginning to be dusk. Prime time for car and deer interaction. And sure enough, I had eye shine still from her. So at one point I thought, she may still be alive. Mm-hmm. So I give her the old boot tap a couple times. No response. We know she's dead.
Pretty sure anyways.
But from these boot taps, she hasn't even gone into rigor mortis yet. Her body hasn't even stiffened. So I know, like, oh my goodness, this is very recent. I have liquid blood. I have body heat that I can feel, not like from the gut, but actual body heat. So those are all signs of like, dang, this just happened.
Freshy.
So I felt confident opening it up, pretty much getting a full deer's worth of meat out of this deer.
Nice.
Gutted it like I would everything normal. I kept the heart. I didn't keep anything else from the fifth quarter, the gut side of it.
Yeah.
But I had an intact heart, so I kept that, and I was able to then get the tenderloins out and a full process on the rest of the deer. So that was like a free deer.
Yeah.
That was just handed on over. So at this moment, I've got 3 deer that I had to shove into my freezer. Instead of full, it's overfloweth. We're into the other freezers even.
Wow.
Putting meat away. So all in all, 2018 has been very successful on the first goal attempt.
Nice.
Of filling the freezers. Yeah. She's now full. Very full.
Nice.
Now, another rule in Buzzardry is you don't turn down an opportunity.
Yeah.
You don't let it pass by. You find somebody to help you
get it done quick.
Get it done quick, whether it's I couldn't pick up the button buck on my own. Mm-hmm. So I hired a carry man, basically a hitman, to come and pick up the deer for me. It's always nice to have a friend who works in opposite shifts of you. Because, hey, wake up. Go get a dead deer off the side of the road for me. But he did it. And I felt generous, so I went halvesies with him. So he got a full strap, he got a full hind leg. He likes things staked out, so basically I staked out everything for him, and he was happy as a clam, man. He got free venison all staked out for him.
Waking up?
Yeah, just for waking up and going picking up a deer.
Deal.
So I only got half of that reward, but at the same time he was like, oh yeah, if I find another one, I'll let you know.
There you go.
But yeah, you can't be just any deer, and you gotta be on top of it.
Yeah.
Because you're going through a situation now where you could have had a salvage deer.
Well, so there's more to the story. So this past weekend, I failed in the woods. Didn't see anything. And then that was on Saturday I hunted. Sunday, we were split shifting church. So my son was sick, and so that's a no-go to nursery. They got rules, plus it's just bad for him. So my wife went to the first service, and I'm upstairs, and I watch 2 deer walk down the neighborhood road, pretty much coming right at my house, taunting me, jump over the trusses of the house that's being built, and run out of my life. I only tell that part of the story because it's just the strangest season. Like, can't freaking find a deer, and then in my neighborhood, they're walking
in the middle of suburbia
down the pavement. And this wasn't like, crepuscular time. This is like 10 a.m. Just walking down the road. Click, clack, click, clack. What is happening?
Where's your crossbow at this moment?
Yeah, so I had that. So immediately seeing the deer, I was like, I need to shoot these deer. So I'm going into like primal instinct mode, like thinking about weaponry and what do I have to do and what should I be doing next, and are they going to go into my yard, and do they actually have to cross into my yard before I do this? And then I talked myself off the ledge, realizing this is all a terrible idea in a neighborhood in the city. And I should probably just videotape this. So I get out the phone and I get a couple of seconds of footage. And thank goodness, because I live next to the sheriff. And so doing anything stupid is probably going to be a real quick reprimand.
A hind leg as a bribe may have gotten you out of it.
Yeah, maybe.
No,
probably not. Probably not. So then I go to church, and about a half hour late due to our exchange, and I get the nice back seat, and I'm going to do the quick escape at the end of the service, and I'm got my plan set together, and I get one step out of the door, and hey, Dustin! What? It's my neighbor. My neighbor's like, hey, you need a deer? It's like, yeah, I need a deer. He's like, well, I got 4. So I'm like way over. So there's this deer, and we go on this walk through the neighborhood, and we went the last 2 days. It's been sitting there, and it's, tucked over in such and such, and it's still lifting its head. It's like, it's got to be put down. It's like, 15 yards off the road or whatever. Tucked back in there. Oh. He was like, you want it? Yeah, I want it. So he's like, okay. You gonna be home in the next hour? We'll figure it out. So I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. So I go home. I see him get by, and then he goes over to a sheriff neighbor, and the deal is he's going to call it in, they're going to take care of it, and they're going to call me. And I didn't have any urgency because, 1, it's still alive, and 2, it's 15 yards off the road tucked in. And it's been spotted by walkers. So it's going to be very unlikely that somebody driving by is going to be aware. Going to be aware of this deer because he's kind of tucked into what is presumably his final bed. So I'm like, okay, this is going to work out. And then a couple hours go by, my neighbor texts me, and he's like, hey, you hear anything? No. I don't know what's going on. Let's go check it out. So we go for a drive, and he's like, I think it's back in here. And so we go, and we kind of go to the spot, and there's nothing there. So we don't have the full story, but our assumption is that the deer was not mortally wounded, and that when the dispatch was called in, that the deer scurried off. So, lost opportunity. So I was going from 1 deer that's still alive, so I don't have to worry about the whole, how long has it been sitting there?
Right.
Super awesome. I was really excited about that. And to just the convenience of like my neighbor brokering the deal and everything. I was like, how can I turn this down? It seemed like such a good deal, and if a deal is too good to be true, it's too good to be true. So, no deer.
Bummer. Yeah.
So
there's still a lot of winter left.
Yeah. And my route is, I'm going through 40 miles of 2-lane, 55-mile-an-hour back road prime Buzzardry. I've never been to the point of desperation of where I felt like I needed to be a buzzard, but now that I'm there, there's some opportunity.
After your first couple,
you just get over it.
You just get over it. I'm picking up that doe, and it's even said I'm preset to have to lift a big deer in the back of the truck. I've got one toe strap, like. The ratchet strap is what hooks to the innermost hook of the bed.
Yeah.
And then I have a pull strap at the outermost tailgate.
Yeah.
So that all I need to do is bring the animal to the tailgate. I loop twice around the knees of the back end of the animal. like pull that animal up and tighten it as I go. So now I can then go to the front and then look the front end in. It's these little tricks that you just figure out. And like as people pass by, they do honk.
Yeah.
And you just got to smile and wave back, give a thumbs up. Like, I found it first. Should have been here quicker.
Yeah. I mean, in my case, I guess I'm just going to have to throw a tarp in the hatchback because likely, it'll probably be a morning find.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to have to tow it into the city in the back of my hatchback.
Put your gut knife in the glove compartment.
Yeah.
Where it should be.
I do actually have the Walmart special custom serration is sitting there ready to go.
I tell you, you're set up in your prime.
Yep.
There's no
dignity
lost.
I can get it tested because I'm right near the lab. I mean, I guess it'll work out.
It's set to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, Buzzardry 101. Salvage tags. Or as you put it the other day, savage tag.
Savage tag. Such savagery.
Whatever it takes, huh?
I guess at this point, I'm 90% confident that in some form or another, I'm going to get meat. Actually, before January 1st.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm putting out some desperate vibes within my network, so.
Gotcha.
Might be charity, but somehow I'm going to get some meat.
Well, you're getting a different type of opportunity, and it's coming up very fast.
This is true. One I'm much more comfortable and successful at.
Yes. In fact, I went past the lake just near my house, and it had that, like, it's definitely not thick, but it had this solid appearance.
Yeah.
Ice is beginning to form on our Michigan lakes.
It's here.
Ice fishing is upon us.
Sort of.
The
skim is there. The weather is not. The weather's garbage.
Weather's garbage. It's been up and down. 37 the other day.
Garbage.
Yeah. Can't have that.
Yeah.
January's coming. We're going to get kicked.
It's going to happen.
We're going to get kicked in the weather nuts.
Inevitably, we're going to get kicked in the weather nuts, and we're going to get kicked in the weather nuts with 20 inches of snow, and that's going to insulate the lakes, and then it'll be a little bit. But such as being close to the, I guess, wrong side of Lake Michigan for ice fishermen. If you live in Wisconsin, life is good, but we get smoked with the snow.
Yeah.
But it will happen. We just might have to be a little patient.
Sounds good. I'm pretty novice to ice fishing.
Yeah.
My first wild game was taken from a pike. I think I mentioned that episode 1 through ice fishing.
Yep.
But I'm still novice at it. I've only gone socially.
Nah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
More beer has been consumed in my ice fishing trips.
Yeah, I don't have time for
that. Than actual fish. You, on the other hand...
Yeah, I think I've consumed half a beer in all my ice fishing.
Dedicated ice fisherman.
Yeah.
Dustin, I know there's a couple forms out there of ice fishing.
Yep.
Tell me your setup. Ice gets hard.
Yep.
What are you doing?
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going after panfish. I think panfish is the number one in the Midwest. Well, Midwest is really king for ice fishing anyways. But that's the number one thing.
We're talking
most folks
gills,
go after.
Crappies.
Yep. Bluegills, perch, crappie.
Is perch considered a panfish?
Yep.
It is.
Yep.
Okay.
Little bastards. That's how you know they're panfish. They taste good, and they're little panfish.
Gotcha.
Yep. So, I guess those would be bluegills, sunfish. Those are all the same. And then perch and crappie are your big three. Your Michigan big three panfish. So I'm probably going to be honing in after some gills, some bluegills. And set up for that, super light. So you're going with an really ultra light. It's a short rod, so they're 18.
So you're dunking at this point with these short fishing rods. You haven't gone to the tip-ups yet.
No. Tip-ups would be your larger game. So we're going to stick with, it's like an 18 to 24 inch. It's basically you take your typical fishing rod that you think of for any fishing and you shrink it up and make it really small. And that's kind of what it looks like. So that's your standard fishing rod, and there's a real small, tiny reel on it. Open face or spinning reel is the standard type of reel. There's different variations out there, but the spinning reel is kind of like the avid fisherman commonplace. You can go old school grandpa, and there's plastic wheels that are literally, it looks like just a plastic disc.
Yeah.
You can get those probably at most places. There's folks that's all they want. They're probably the same guys that are shooting longbows. If that's what, blows your skirt up, go for it. But for me, it's the spinning reel is just more efficient. And then that small 18 to 24 inch rod. And then if you want to go super sensitive, there's a thing called the spring bobber that you can add. It's an addition to your setup where you put it on the very tippy end of your pole, and the line goes through that, and it's just a thin piece of metal. Sometimes it's, I think titanium. Doesn't really matter what the material is. If it says spring bobber on it, those are kind of extra sensitivity things. So it just depends if you want the extra sensitivity or not. If you got a really thin rod, you don't really need it. My setups, most of them have it. Most of them have that extra spring bobber, just for that extra sensitivity. And then as far as fishing line goes, you're going really small. So you're going 2 pound test, monofilament. If you really want to get into the light game, you can go down to 1 pound. You're going to have to search around for 1 pound. If you want to go total geekoid, you can go to your fabric store or fabric section and find really small diameter clear thread, and then just match up what your 1 pound diameter line would be, and then you'd find something in and around that diameter. I haven't done that.
Why such the light tackle?
So the fish are so lethargic and so freaking picky that you're trying to coax them into biting your offering. So that's really it. The fish,
they're not going to fight that hard, but at the same time they're going to be extra choosy.
Yeah.
On what you're presenting.
And that's most days ice fishing. Some days ice fishing, it doesn't really matter. And on the doesn't really matter days, heavier line and then jigs. So you, I guess standard affair would be tungsten jigs, and it's like I think 2.5 millimeter, 2.5 millimeter, 3 millimeter, 3.5 millimeter would be like gigantic. So those are kind of like your size ranges, and then tungsten jigs you can get a smaller profile per weight because tungsten's heavier than, let's say, lead. Lead would be the standard alternative. Tungsten's really taken the ice fishing world.
I think in most fields, both with, waterfowlers, fishermen, lead's on its way out.
Yeah, tungsten's more expensive, but it's heavier per whatever size. So you can get that smaller profile, and you can still get it sink rate is good because it's all about, the fish are going to be in the bottom of the water column in most cases. If they're aggressive, they won't be. So in a lot of cases, it's about getting to the bottom. So that's smaller, and then you want to be smaller profile because they're picky. So it's getting to the bottom fast, smaller profile, and that's where tungsten comes to be an advantage. And so I guess Wolfram is a manufacturer that really kind of has the biggest section of the tungsten market. I don't know if they're first in there, but those are usually the ones that I run with. So that's kind of the setup as far as just the line, the rod, the reel, and the jig. And then as far as bait goes, you're looking at spikes. They're just larvas. Spikes, red spikes, white spikes, possibly a waxworm. Waxworm's going to be a larger larva. And that's the main setup for the bluegill.
Gotcha. And that's your bread and butter right there.
Yep. That's go out in the backyard on the pond, throw that down there, have a heck of a bunch of fun.
Gotcha. In the world of tip-ups.
Yep.
I look at a tip-up in my novice view, and I'm like, there's so much work being done not by me. Like, it's just a passive piece of equipment that's working.
Yeah.
And that excites me, that I could essentially be in like 6 different places at once. Or is there a limit to how many holes you can have operating at once?
You can have 3 lines in the state of Michigan.
3 lines.
Dedicated to you. So however you want to slice that up, if you want to be running 1 bluegill rod jiggy, you run 2 tip-ups, and that's your 3 lines. If you want to run 3 tip-ups, that's fine. You get a gaggle of friends together, and you can really litter the ice with tip-ups.
That's my experience, is I've really been there for 3 lines. I don't think I did a whole lot of actual help, but I was there to be like, those 3 are mine over there.
You got a valid fishing license? Okay, great.
Yeah, that's how it was.
Yeah.
So you can break that up, and you mentioned tip-ups are more for our larger fish, mainly predatory. What are we looking at?
Pike and walleye is going to be the big ones in this area. That's going to be predominant.
Do we have a lot of inland walleye here in southern Michigan?
Yeah, I would say a lot is relative. They're difficult. They're difficult to get. Some of the lakes have them. Some of them don't. More on larger lakes. So you got to have the right spawning conditions for walleye.
Gotcha. Deep enough water. They tend to like deeper water.
I think you need rocks and moving water. I don't know. They're weird critters. I know in one of the larger lakes around here is Gun Lake, and most of that lake's shallow. There's walleye in there. They also stock them. So
okay.
I guess it depends if there's a good stocking program or not. Lake's gonna have to be either there's gonna have to be people behind it, or there's gonna have to be some sort of support for stocking. So it depends.
So we're looking at specific area. Pike is going to be
Pike's usually in this part of the country what folks are kind of getting after with the tip-ups. It's pike territory.
So what are you throwing down as a bait? You're throwing...
So you can
minnow.
So you can go with like a shiner. You can go with a sucker. So those are 2 kinds of minnows that you can go with live bait. Or you can go with a smelt. And so a smelt would be frozen. Well, dead bait. And you can go real crazy, and you can dye your smelt if you want. If you want to get a little different color going, you can get the food dye that you would use for whatever you're food dyeing, green or red. Throw that in a vac bag, and with a bunch of smelt and vac bag that in together, and you can have yourself a crayon of a smelt if you really want to go nuts.
Now, in the sense of that is you're both using like the funk of that fish along with the color variation.
Yeah, so the smelt puts off a lot of oil. The color variation, I don't know. I've done it. I think it works, but by scientific rigor, I didn't have very good control. I understand there's a crap ton of biases in my approach, so I'm not going to go on the record and say, oh, yeah, it works, or whatever. But it's really not difficult. It's fun to do, so why not? Why not try it out? That's the thing with fishing. If it's not working, you want to try something different. So
just to have something else
in there. It keeps your sanity, so why not? So that's the bait. I haven't done a lot of smelt stuff lately. I don't know why. But the tip-ups are really simple. So you just get 30-pound tip-up line and or 20-pound tip-up line, whatever it's marked on the package. It doesn't take anything super specific, at least from my perspective. You could use braided line if you wanted to. The tip-up line is probably going to be the way to go. Just go with that stuff, because the braided line, because you fight the fish with your hand. I mean, you're hand over hand pulling the line and physically with your hand. Mm-hmm. And the braided line that you would use on your regular pole is going to be thinner in diameter, so it's just going to be hell on your hands.
Yeah.
The tip-up line's a little thicker. So you get a section of tip-up line. I don't know, 100 feet's plenty. And then you can go straight to the hook. And then if you're getting into the whole it's picky thing again, you could tie on a monofilament leader, which is clear. You're gonna risk bite offs.
Yeah.
So some folks are so paranoid about bite offs that they'll use a steel leader. I think you're just gonna sit there and stare at your flag not coming up for a long time with steel leaders. So in my opinion, it's between either going straight to the hook with the tip-up line, which probably is going to eliminate some of the bites, but you're going to have less shear. Otherwise, you can go with a fluorocarbon or monofilament leader on there, and it's really just a treble hook, big freaking sinker, tie it on. I mean, it's caveman stuff.
Yeah.
You put it down there.
I think that's why I'm so intrigued by tip-ups, because it's like
you set
so
the flag,
easy a caveman can do it.
You set the flag. If you're getting in shallow water, I guess a pro tip would be cover your hole covers. So some of the tip-ups are built with hole covers.
And that's just to cover sunlight shine coming down through.
Absolutely.
That's going to spook the fish.
Yep, potentially could. So, you just got to be really shallow and clear for that. Otherwise, a paper plate. Cut a slit in it, throw that in there. But you're talking, if you're after fish in 6 feet of water or less. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. The hole cover is also nice for snow. So that's fine. If you got blowing wind, that hole cover's nice. If it's super cold, the thing's going to ice up anyways, and you're just going to end up having to kick the hole out and
gotcha.
A whole bunch of fun. So
speaking of that, how are you going through the ice? Are you using, you see on these videos and stuff, these guys using these on super thick ice. It's basically like a lawnmower or a weed whip engine on top of a big auger.
Yeah.
And then I see at the pro shops, I see just these hand augers.
Yep.
You could go old man style and just go ice spud. What are you doing?
All of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah. Although my gas auger's down, so not all of the above.
Boy.
But so when it's really thin, you're talking like 2 inches of ice, which...
Hold up. Before we get into punching holes into 2 inches of ice,
yeah.
What is considered safe ice?
Anything that'll hold your ass up.
Dustin, for me and you, we're talking two different ice. You can go fishing on days that I can't.
Well, there you go. That's why it's relative. I'm not going to give anybody...
I'm shorter than you, and I'm heavier than you. This is a bad deal.
I'm not giving a thickness. If you want to be super safe and you're squirrely, 4 inches. 4 inches is crazy safe. That was my dad's thickness level.
Gotcha.
I've gone thinner than that as I ventured out into adulthood and started.
I was just going to ask, are you going to disclose how thin of ice you've been on?
I've been on 1.5 inches.
Inch and a half.
Inch and a half. Black ice. So there's black ice and there's milky ice.
Okay.
So black ice is basically just clear
solid.
Ice. Yeah,
it's like a
clear
plate
ice.
of glass.
Yeah. So that's strong stuff. And so, inch and a half is probably pretty stupid. But so.
Just wanted you to say it. That way you realized.
Yeah, that was shallow. So the area that I was fishing in,
okay.
It was 3 feet of water. So
right.
if I went through, it was a wet day, not
you
a dead
were
day.
going to be pissed cold, not dead cold.
Not dead. Yeah. So no big deal. Well, yeah. Not much of a big deal.
No.
So yeah, I mean, so the spud in the early season, so you use that to check because the thickness may not be uniform. So spud is basically just a long metal rod with a chisel end on the end of it. So if you can go through in one whack, turn around. Now, if you're playing the system a little bit, you just don't swing so hard.
You just tap the ice. Oh, it held the spud.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a little game in the system there. But that's kind of how you stay safe, is the one whack. And so when it is thin like that, the spud, I mean, it's not difficult. You spud your hole. Anything under 6 inches of ice, hand auger, I mean, is good to go. And there's 2 main brands out there, I guess. I guess there's the Laser. I don't know if that's their model or their brand. But that's the more budget-friendly. And then there's a Nils, Nils. And they, I don't think they're USA. But anyways, the Nils is the Cadillac model, a hand auger. It's a totally different design and takes a lot less effort. Like a quarter of the effort. Doesn't take a lot of pressure. So if you have a Nils hand auger, you could probably get through some thicker ice. You might maybe go 8 or 10 inches without too much fatigue. But usually I say 6 inches. And I have the cheaper, the Laser model. Then after that, you go gas or electric. So the electric are, well, I guess they have dedicated electric models, but they have conversions to like an electric drill. Those are pretty sweet. So if you happen to have a decent electric, 18 or 24 volt lithium ion drill that you're using for your construction or whatever, you can get an adapter. So you can get in the game of drilling lots of holes for fairly inexpensive. You can get that same Nils, which would be the way I would recommend to go. Because you can do an adapter to the Laser, and what I've found with that is that you need gorilla wrists because there's so much torque.
Yeah.
That it's uncomfortable.
I got an old Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Drill.
Yep.
That if I had 100, I'd need a lot of extension cord.
Oh yeah.
But
one of those guys.
I bring that sucker out. We'd be through that ice with that
through
attachment right now.
Yeah.
You give me the Laser, tough bite.
I got a cordless Milwaukee from my father-in-law just a couple weeks ago. So I might be looking to go down that road since my gas auger is in a couple of pieces and has been so for 2 seasons now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Last season was not good for ice.
Yeah, and I've been a little spoiled. I'm not going to lie, living on the pond and not venturing out too far, just until it gets fished out, I don't have to move around a lot. So if you don't have to move around a lot, even if you're in 12 inches of ice or whatever, you deal with it.
Yeah.
But that's not the standard. The standard, if you're on most public waters, if you want to keep catching fish, unless it's an amazing day, you're cutting a lot of holes.
Gotcha.
50, 100 holes.
Lots of moving.
Yeah. I mean, I'm probably above average on hole cutting. I know I'm above average on hole cutting. But I like to catch fish, and I do catch fish, so that's where it becomes an advantage.
Nice.
Auger talk. That was a lot of auger talk.
That was a lot of auger talk. I'm excited because, again, I did a lot more beer drinking than I did ice fishing.
Yeah.
And this is going to be...
And we didn't get into electronics.
No. Ooh. You want to talk electronics?
They're really simple.
You just stick your wand down there and
Yeah.
it'll tell you if there's fish or not.
Yeah. So they're flashers.
There's flashers.
And so that's really the only thing that real ice fishermen use.
Explain the flasher.
So as far as brands go, there's Markham and there's Vexilar. I have a Vexilar.
That seems to be...
superior.
Yeah.
I think they're out of Minnesota.
All love for Minnesota.
I don't know where Markham's out of. They're probably both out of the same state. But anyways, they're both great. They're Pepsi and Coke. Good flashers. But a flasher is essentially a sonar that sends a signal down and gives you real-time information of where the bottom is and where the fish are. So you have to interpret that. It's basically colored lines. So it's like Pong, essentially. But in the fish finding world, you're looking at, I don't know, that's below 8-bit. But it's not the high-resolution downscan stuff that you would see in summer bass fishing or what the salmon charter boats are doing. But it gives you information of what's there, and it's immediate. So once you learn how to read it, you can see where your jig is, where a fish is, where the bottom is, and you know exactly what's happening, and it changes the game.
Because I've seen your Vexilar, and I've seen it at work.
Yeah.
It's all gibberish to me.
Yeah.
It's just lines moving.
It takes, if you actually have a pole in your hand and the jig, and you've run a video game machine before, it takes about 10 minutes. You have it figured out.
Gotcha.
But if you're just looking as a spectator, you're like, I don't know, this is stupid. I don't care.
I walk over there like,
Where's
Nick,
my beer?
What does it say? It says red, yellow, and green.
Yeah.
What else do you want?
Pretty much.
Well, good. I'm excited to... I'm assuming I'm just going to jump in on your fishing ventures.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get out there and teach me what's going on.
Yeah, we'll go to the pond.
It'll be a good time.
Close pond, we got some bass to cull, which normally you can't do, but...
Is that a species that a lot of people get as bass in the wintertime?
No, it's close season. But since I have this non-normal, basically, aquarium that I'm living on, that doesn't
basically
apply.
A backwater.
Yeah, and it's overpopulated with bass. So I've talked with some of the biologists and fish biologists, and yeah, they agree.
They agree. They said, "Yeah, get rid of
Yeah,
it."
get rid of it.
Gotcha. Dustin, we're approaching 2 hours.
Oh my gosh. Auger talk and salvage talk.
I tell you, it's been a good talk.
It's gonna be a rough morning tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's gonna be a rough day.
Can't wait to get up at 5:20.
It's coming up fast.
Oh my gosh.
Well, hey, big takeaways of the night. Yeah, deer season's closed for me.
Yeah.
I might pull a Brett Favre and come back out for one more hurrah, but I think I'm done. I've been getting after cooking venison. You did shank on your own.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful adventure.
Yeah.
We had 2 previous interviews. We had Scott Ree and Hank Shaw, incredible gentlemen,
Yeah.
masters of their craft, and ice fishing right around the corner.
It's coming.
It's coming. Well, folks, Christmas will have already passed, so let's just say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you. And this is Huntavore signing off. Keep your knives sharp.
Keep your knives sharp.